news as Secretary of State Marco Rubio has landed at the G7 summit in Saudi Arabia, where the president's America First mission will be on the world stage. Earlier today, the State Department announced they are slashing 83% of USAID funding amid findings of massive waste, fraud, and abuse. And meanwhile, here at home, the border is secure, American cities and towns are safer, and law enforcement, including the FBI, is doing what it takes to keep the American people safe. Now, over the weekend, the FBI saved 2 children who were kidnapped by their father, taken across the border to Mexico, and held for ransom. Watch.
Today, 2 kids are back home after the FBI says they were kidnapped by their father, who took them across the border into Ciudad Juarez. FBI officials in El Paso say they met Mexican authorities at a local port of entry to take the children in exchange for their father, who is now facing charges for kidnapping the children and demanding a ransom for them. They posted these images on social media. The FBI says the children are now reunited.
And that follows the arrest of several Tren de Aragua gang members, the extradition of cartel members, and the capture of the Abbey Gate terrorist, who's the mastermind behind the attack during the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. Border security, as we've always stated, is national security. And we are bringing those who harm Americans to justice and keeping our streets safe. Here's Vice President J.D. Vance earlier today responding to a heckler who was attacking President Trump's border security agenda. Take a look.
The world, and you see a very consistent relationship between a massive increase in immigration and a massive increase in housing prices. And we have to be honest about that. Well, I see one of our nice representatives out here wants to actually, I guess, continue to flood the country with illegal immigrants, making your communities and citizens unaffordable. But ma'am, with all respect, one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing is because we want to make it more affordable for Americans to live. That is one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing.
And last week, FBI agents arrested 2 active duty Army soldiers and a former service member accused of conspiring to sell sensitive military information to unauthorized buyers, including 2 people in China. This behavior will not be tolerated, and those who betray our national defense will be held accountable. And today, we are going to do a deep dive into all of it. Make sure that you are awake and that you're not too tired after losing an hour of sleep. So grab yourself some 1775 coffee. We could all use it. We talk about it all the time. Don't compromise on taste, quality, or your values. And 1775 coffee is brewed to perfection. It is crafted with precision, and it is built on patriotism. The farm to cup process means there is quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. So why not try 1775 coffee today? Go to 1775coffee.com/KG and you will receive 15% off of your first order. And joining me now, retired FBI special agent with 26 amazing years of law enforcement experience, town hall columnist, John Nantz. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. And congratulations on your ambassadorship.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege of a lifetime to be able to be asked to serve, as you know, and to try to give back again, to this incredible country that we're all so grateful for. And I was really looking forward to you coming on the program today. So you have a recent column about the end of empty suit era at the FBI. What's your assessment so far of the Bureau under Kash Patel? And just sort of take us through the juxtaposition of where the Bureau was at, where it is now, and where it can go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what we've seen so far is incredibly encouraging under Kash Patel. I think, and one accomplishment that I don't see talked about much, and you touched on it with regard to border security as national security, is the incorporation of FBI street agents into ICE operations. I don't think we've ever really seen this before, and certainly to not this scale. And it's also a demonstration of how quickly the FBI can be turned around. It's a very top-down driven organization. When the Biden administration was heavily influencing the FBI with Director Wray, who was in my opinion, the quintessential empty suit director. Uh, we had an FBI that essentially was being run by Garland's Department of Justice. Wray simply just would not do the job of the director sometimes and push back on things that obviously violated due process and civil liberties. So with Kash Patel rising to the directorship, we're already seeing some tremendous improvements and course corrections at the FBI. And you named a bunch of them, especially the arrest of the Abbey Gate mastermind. That's a huge win, not just for the FBI, but for the intelligence community as a whole. So my town hall column touches on some of these issues. I think one of the most interesting things about Director Patel is not some of the flashier accomplishments and credentials, but rather his time as a public defender. And I think that really instilled in him that deep love for civil liberties and that deep respect for one of our justice system's most important maxims, which is innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
And if there was ever a time for the FBI to be reinculcated with that idea and with the respect for that idea, that's now. So a lot of good things. I'm very, very encouraged by what I see so far. And one other thing that I really like to try to point out when I have the opportunity, we have a director who's not just committed to transparency, which is incredibly important, but we also have a director who's committed to defending the good men and women of the FBI who deserve it. And a recent story that has made its way around X and other social media was with regard to this alleged honeypot story. And Director Patel quickly got to the bottom of that and debunked it. So I was very encouraged to see that too.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The top priorities, okay, in these first 100 days for law enforcement, and just how big and bureaucratic can the FBI, be, and how does a new director kind of keep his eyes on it all? This is a lot. It's a little bit overwhelming, daunting, but it seems to be going very well. But if you actually process it and think about it, a lot that needs to be done, a lot that needs to be investigated and looked into, and then wholesale changes to make sure that the agency is restored to its ethical and moral compass.
I think it's going to take a little time to accomplish some of the structural changes. For instance, Patel has already mandated that headquarters be reduced by, I think, 1,500 personnel. That's going to take a little time to accomplish, but what is being accomplished really quickly are some of the cultural maybe resets, if you want to put it that way. And I think that we're already seeing that to a large degree. So it is a very complex, a very daunting job, as you've described it. I think it's really important for Patel to surround himself with a really experienced, competent leadership team that's committed to the Constitution and to civil liberties. The deputy director position is obviously a very, very important position. I think we all know, I think most of your viewers probably know that Dan Bongino has been appointed to that position. Some of my colleagues, we do have some questions about that. But to give credit where credit is due, Mr. Bongino served as an NYPD police officer, 75th precinct, which is one of the most challenging and difficult precincts in the NYPD. He also served for 10, maybe 11 years as a Secret Service agent. So those are all very laudable accomplishments. But the deputy director position oversees the day-to-day operations of the FBI, all the national security functions, the very critical, complex investigations. So I think that as long as Mr. Bongino takes his cue from Director Patel and surrounds himself with a good leadership team, I think there's tremendous potential to do some very, very good things at the FBI. But I think critical for Patel is to assemble, I think he already has, assemble a good leadership team that will help him with his span of control. One thing that's really important, I think there are 40 divisions at headquarters right now.
Wow.
10 years ago, I think there were maybe 20, 15 or 20. So obviously, the Bureau has gotten very top heavy. That needs to change. That goes to Patel's ability to effectively control and manage, this organization that employs 38,000 people. So whittling that down to a manageable, practical size is going to be very important.
No, it really is. And I was present for this exact moment that we're showing on screen when Cash got sworn in and then, gave his remarks to everybody in the room, which was very nice. But so let's talk about this. How do field agents interact with leadership in Washington? What's the nexus there? And I know that Director Patel made it a priority to get agents actually back out onto the field. What impact does that have? Because I think this is an interesting dynamic and a change from the past.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, as a brick agent, as we like to call agents, the frontline agents, they don't really have that much interaction with senior management. That's pretty infrequent. Most of their contact is with the first level supervisors, which is what I was. I was a supervisory special agent. That's the first management rung at the FBI. So most street agents, all their interaction is with their supervisor day to day. They might see some from their assistant special agent in charge, the ASAC as we call them. That's the second rung. And then very infrequently from their SAC, the special agent in charge. That's the individual that's responsible for running the entire field office, whether that be at Washington Field or Miami or many of the other field offices that we have spread throughout the country. So those senior level people the people that are at headquarters don't have much interaction at all with the street agents. And that's part of the reason why holding investigations at headquarters produced big problems like Crossfire Hurricane. There's actually much more opportunity for politicization and weaponization when you have investigations exclusively held at headquarters. There are fewer checks and balances, believe it or not, at the headquarters level. So that's one thing that I'm sure Director Patel will be addressing, is pushing investigative responsibilities out to the field office level.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. Interesting about headquarters and what happens there. And I think it was something that, Director Patel thought a lot about and wanting to make sure and, kind of deploy agents back out into the field, et cetera, and sort of just break up that sort of congestion at headquarters.
Right.
Let's talk about how crimes are actually investigated by the FBI. Does it start with a tip? I mean, take us through sort of the process.
Well, it depends on what you're working exactly, but if you're on a criminal squad, and I never worked a criminal squad, most of my experience is in counterintelligence and different various elements of surveillance. But typically a criminal squad, yes, I mean, some of the things do come in as tips. The FBI, investigates federal crimes, so it's not like your local law enforcement agency where you're responding to calls for service. So information will come in. The basic responsibility of every case agent is to develop sources. So they should be, and they haven't been for many years. And this is another problem that came essentially from Mueller's reaction to 9/11. But case agents should be out in their communities developing sources. Sources lead to cases. So that's what needs to be happening. We need to get back to that process. So typically a source will put an investigator, an FBI agent onto a particular crime, and then the probable cause will have to be developed. And a full field investigation typically is developed. And then the FBI agent will work very closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office. in fulfilling all the elements of the particular crime. And then the Department of Justice will issue an arrest warrant, and the agents will go out, effect the arrest, and then DOJ will in turn effect the prosecution. And let me mention this too, and this is where some of the disconnect comes in with the J6 matters and prosecutions. Not that there isn't plenty to criticize the FBI for with regard to that investigation, but the prosecutions were all handled by Merrick Garland's DOJ. The FBI doesn't prosecute cases, it only investigates cases. So just want to make that distinction. There's been a lot of confusion about that. However, I will say I was working during the summer of mostly peaceful protests, and I was also working during the better part of the initiation of the January 6th investigations. And I can tell you from personal experience that the commitment of resources to the January 6th investigation was by orders of magnitude greater than the resources that were committed to the BLM riots or the Antifa quote unquote protests.
Unbelievable, when you think about it and look back on history. It
Absolutely.
almost doesn't seem, feasible that something like that could happen. But, we're still dealing with January 6th stuff now, and lawsuits against the president, subpoenas, and
Right.
ask me how I know. Wow.
Oh, by
I
the
shouldn't
way,
say
happy
something. They'll
birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. You know what was nice? If at least for my birthday, I didn't get a subpoena, so that was perfect. Thank God. Yay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm dead serious. So let's talk about, speaking of investigations, let's talk about kind of the different levels, the different types of investigations, and where you think they should be focused, the direction that they should be going in under this new, FBI and new director.
Well, like I said initially, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, right? I mean, that's the bedrock of our jurisprudential system. So the FBI needs to be concerned with following the facts, not looking to create a crime to pin on an individual, but rather following the facts where they lead, instead of having a predetermined or a foregone conclusion in mind. So it depends on the kind of investigations. The counterintelligence side of a house does things a little bit differently. Even the CI side of the house is still or should be a criminal prosecution focused entity. Traditionally, it has been. FISA, which has been very hotly debated in not so recent past. I mean, the acronym stands for Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That's what it was designed for, to surveil foreign intelligence operatives. So we simply need to get back to the basics, and Kash Patel has talked about this, letting good cops be good cops. That's essentially what the FBI is. What the FBI should be doing is letting good cops be good cops. And it applies to the counterintelligence side of the house as well, because we're looking for espionage investigations, which is a federal crime. So people have forgotten about this somewhat, but most of this stuff has emanated from the 7th floor of headquarters.
Yeah, that's true. And I know Cash, who used to be a regular on this show, would talk about that, about the 7th floor. So there's also now, a priority to dismantle cartel, trafficking, and illegal smuggling networks as a focus with the FBI. What role do they have in that? And quite frankly, what tools do they have to stop this insane flow of laundered funds that end up in the hands of these bad actors?
Yeah, well, I think one of the best things that Trump has actually done so far is in designating these cartels as foreign intelligence organizations, because that brings to bear the entire federal intelligence community, law enforcement, even the military. So that's a very, very significant development. And I think from what I'm reading, most of these cartel guys are running and trying to hide in caves, which isn't going to help them, as we saw with ISIS. I mean, remember, this is a president that decimated ISIS in just a matter of weeks. So I don't think the cartels stand much of a chance. But the FBI's role in that will be in prosecuting federal crimes, RICO, racketeering, crimes that the cartels are often involved in. The DEA will play a very central role in these investigations and prosecutions. The Central Intelligence Agency will be collecting on these individuals, doubtless. The NSA, all these intelligence capabilities will be brought to bear. So I think this will be a whole of government approach to this problem. And you touched on the border security is national security. I mean, we have border crossings at a historic low. I think they've been slashed by 98% compared to Biden's invasion at the border. So this is all very, very good news. And I mentioned before, the Bureau's involvement in ICE operations is really unprecedented and a very welcome development. I know
yeah.
amongst the retired agent community.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. It's an important development that really should not be overlooked. We've also seen lots of coverage about releasing certain files, okay, on high-profile cases, whether it's Epstein, whether it's JFK, whatever else. What power, let's just hear it from you, does the FBI director have to declassify, or how does that process even work and come to fruition?
Well, the only person that has original classification authority is the President of the United States.
That guy.
And he's the only person that can declassify classified documents. So the FBI director doesn't have any ability to declassify documents, nor does the Attorney General. That has to come from President Trump. So if President Trump decides to declassify whatever is classified about the JFK files, then it's declassified and is shared as per his directive. So that's kind of all on Trump. But with regard to like the Epstein files and Bondi's release of the Epstein files, or at least a small portion of them, there is a lot of confusion surrounding that as well, and some of it goes to the language involved. AG Bondi will refer to SDNY, or the Southern District of New York. That actually refers to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She was on Handy, I think, the other night, and really kind of brought a lot of clarity to this. So the truckloads of documents that she was demanding and had referred to were actually held by the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. Now, I would imagine the reason why they had some of that physical evidence or original documents probably has to do with the Maxwell appeal or the Maxwell case. Certainly the field office, the New York field office, and that's how we refer to an FBI office, as either the New York field office or say the Miami field office. It's not the SDNY, as I said, that refers to the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is part of DOJ. So a lot of those documents were turned over to New York Field. The digital documents would all be housed in the very robust information management system that the FBI maintains, which is fully discoverable. I mean, it's designed to comply with discovery requirements, legal requirements. So there's no shredding of documents. There's no bleach bidding. There's none of that stuff
Remember that?
going on at the FBI. So the assistant director in charge, who was running the New York field office, Dennehy, of course, he was asked to retire. And I don't know that if that has anything to do with the management of the Epstein files. That's not really that unusual with a changing of the guard.
Yeah.
Those senior executive positions are held at the pleasure of the director. So I would say that his leaving has more to do with really insubordinate actions with regard to the J6 email inquiries that were sent out by DOJ several weeks back. That would be my guess anyway. So
Yeah, I
hope
mean,
that
that's a
answers
fair
the question.
assessment, though, too. I like it. I mean, like, yeah, that's what you think transpired there. And let's see. Now, also, I think this is interesting because you had, the benefit of the experience of working in both the Miami field office and in Washington, D.C. at headquarters. So you really know what it's like out in the field, what it's like in D.C. at headquarters. How would you say in your assessment, John, these offices, how are they similar and how are they different?
Well, I didn't work at headquarters. I worked at Washington field office.
Okay,
That's a
got it.
that's a difference. So I was never an ASAC or an SAC or a
Okay,
unit
got it.
chief or any of that. Just to be clear.
Thank you.
But the differences, well, it's night and day. It has more to do with the type of work, the community that you're in. Um, Washington Field has traditionally been a very counterintelligence driven field office. As you can imagine, Washington contains a ton of embassies. There are a lot of foreign operatives in the DC area. I mean, you can go by mailboxes in DC today and see chalk marks on the mailboxes. And those chalk marks are there because you have intelligence officers signaling to their assets that either a dead drop is filled or a dead drop needs to be emptied or what have you. So Washington Field, like I said, has been very driven by that counterintelligence mission. Miami's different. The counterintelligence work there is good, but obviously, especially during the 80s, you had the emphasis was drugs,
Yeah.
simply because that's where the congressional funding was
Yes.
in narcotics. Miami doesn't focus so much on that, but it has a very robust criminal squad. Of course, you can imagine the healthcare fraud is very, very prevalent in South Florida as well. So there are a lot of different factors that kind of shape the particular field offices and what they focus on.
And, as you reflect back on your career, John, what's that today, and you look back, what stands out to you?
Well, I came in really at the beginning of Mueller's shift to the intelligence collection model. And after 9/11, and Mueller was really caught off guard by President Bush. Um, Bush really, I think, had some unreasonable expectations of the FBI at the time. The Bureau was doing what it had done traditionally, sort of a reactive model of law enforcement, investigating crimes, letting the facts lead the investigation as opposed to the other way around.
Mm.
And Bush wanted more intelligence and, a reasonable response to the devastation and the tragedy of 9/11. Mueller's reaction to that was to really try to recast the FBI in the intelligence collection model. And so the impetus was in producing intelligence products, not so much in making criminal cases. I mean, of course, the Bureau still continued to do that, but the cultural shift had already, he had affected a cultural shift in that way. Now, I mentioned before, BRIC agents should be out developing sources
Yes.
out in their communities, right? Well, Mueller moved the FBI away from that idea. So literally, as a case agent, your supervisor would be wondering why you weren't sitting at your desk doing
Hmm.
your paperwork, producing FISA requests, things of that nature. prior to that time, your supervisor would have wondered why you were spending so much time at your desk.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you sort of an idea of the culture change at that time.
Yeah, it really does, actually. That's very
Yeah.
telling.
Toward the end of my career, really the DEI stuff that Biden was instituting, it really started with Obama, but Biden put that stuff on steroids. The deleterious effects of DEI were really starting to become apparent. And of course, COVID occurred and the COVID mandates. And, I think the FBI really tried to thread the needle with that. A lot of people have criticized the FBI. I can only speak to my experience with that. This is in the environment where you had soldiers summarily dismissed for not taking the jab, but the FBI essentially said, well, we're going to process your exemption requests. They gave medical and religious exemptions. And in the meantime, we want you to test, on a weekly basis for COVID. So that kind of came in the end of my career. But there was definitely a shift that I saw from the beginning, away from the criminal model to the intelligence collection model. And then toward the end, just some of the really bad effects of DEI.
Yeah, I mean, that's so good. I like this. 1,000% behind this FBI. And over
Oh,
at
yeah, that was a great,
yeah,
that was a great post.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. And over at DNI, okay, we'll talk about Tulsi Gabbard for a moment. She just announced that it's official that security clearances have been revoked for Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and others. Amen. I guess the obvious question is, why would they have clearances, especially for the Biden officials who aren't even still in office?
Well, because it's a commodity. If you have a security clearance, that's actually a very marketable asset. So that's why those individuals want to hold on to those security clearances that actually can lead to some very, very lucrative positions in corporate America, especially when it comes to defense contracting.
Yes.
So taking those security clearances away is a real blow, a real financial blow to those individuals. And and that was absolutely warranted. Those individuals should not have access to classified information, to classified government facilities. And if they want to make a living, then maybe they can do that in a manner that doesn't implicate national security any further, since they've obviously demonstrated themselves to be less than trustworthy.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, and they shouldn't have them. So, and I hear what you're saying. Yes, it is something that people love to have. It's, like you said, highly marketable, defense contracts, all of the above. But I'm glad we're, doing something about it and shutting it down. This is when you just hear those names, and I just think about the news in the past and just the history behind each one of those names, and what they did and what they tried to do to the president. It's just, you have to take a moment and go, wow, it's just, it's unbelievable. And they came very close to getting away with it.
Yes, they did.
Unbelievable.
I really,
Yeah, go ahead.
I really think that, and Trump has said this many times, that his winning the election is an act of divine providence. I mean, talk about the greatest political comeback story ever. That just doesn't happen. So we're very, very blessed and fortunate to have President Trump as our president. And I'm very encouraged by what I see so far at the FBI. I think Patel's doing a great job. That post that you just shared, that's of the hostage rescue team.
Yeah.
And those guys have served over in Iraq and Afghanistan with other Tier 1 forces, and they're highly respected among the military Tier 1 communities. So
That's amazing. I know what that means, and that's saying something, So it's pretty cool. It makes you feel, proud as an American, and restoring some honor and dignity to the department, which just has not shared a favorable public opinion whatsoever about the agents because of all the abuses. When we look back, John, years from now, what will be your benchmarks for success in Cash's term?
that's a good question.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I think I think a big benchmark is going to be a downsizing at headquarters. I can't give you a percentage. I mean, Director Patel is going to have to take a look at that and determine, well, what's best, what's most effective operationally speaking. Another big benchmark is going to be the cases being held at the field office level. No more headquarters driven, exclusively headquarters held cases. That's going to be another huge benchmark as well. I think that a restored reputation. I
Yes,
think
that's a big one.
yeah, the maybe I tell you, a big benchmark is going to be the first time that he's called before Congress to give account for some question that Congress has, and he provides a clear, concise, transparent testimony. That'll be a huge benchmark. I think one of the biggest complaints that FBI agents broadly and the retired community I keep in touch with was Comey's constant obfuscation to Congress. I mean, I think everybody is sick and tired of hearing, well, I can't speak to that issue because it's part of an ongoing investigation. I mean, you could almost predict that that was going to be Comey or Wray's response to congressional inquiry. So I don't expect to see that from Director Wray.
Hmm.
I think that his commitment to transparency will bear itself out. I think that'll be a huge benchmark, and I think that will go a long way in restoring trust to the trust of the American people in their FBI. I think also too, I've seen a lot of communication on social media platforms, both from Director Patel's account, from his communications director, from his public
Hmm.
affairs director. I think that is all really valuable. We've never seen that before.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
been
And
something that,
kudos to the
yeah,
team and the people, behind the scenes that actually got those accounts up and running and going, right away. That is a big difference.
it is a big difference. And I think that being able to communicate directly to the American people is really important. And I've said this before, and I said this especially when Wray was still the director, that in this atmosphere of distrust, wherever possible, the FBI should be in the practice of oversharing.
Hmm.
So as long as you're not compromising a case or national security, the FBI ought to be pumping out information about what they're doing. And I see this coming from the field office accounts. They're constantly putting out information with regard to the latest ICE arrests that they've participated in, or the latest potential terrorism event that they have interdicted. So all these things are really really encouraging developments.
I agree. This is so good. So also I want to just say, I'm a big fan of your work, and I just would like you to take a moment to let people know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and get more super intelligent insight.
Well, I'm pretty much on all the socials at the John Nantz on X, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all those platforms, and you can check out my work and my archive at townhall.com. Town Hall, in my opinion, not that I'm biased, is probably the best source for conservative information and opinion in the digital space. So people should go to Town Hall, check out all their content. Got a lot of really great people writing there. And thank you again so much for having me on.
A
It's been a
pleasure.
real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll tell you, I was really looking forward to it. I told my producer, Drew Lynch, and I was like, oh, this is so good. I hearted it. And I was like, this is going to be fantastic. So, our viewers really care about this, about these issues, about the FBI. We've been covering all of this pretty extensively. So it's great to get perspective from someone like yourself that really knows, the difference. We like to bring the facts here, exactly what's going on, and honest and fair assessment, an evaluation of what has transpired thus far, what we should be looking out for in the future, and then the look back as benchmarks, as we discussed on the show. John Nantz, my friend, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
All right. And my closing remarks just ahead. But first, free speech is under attack, but Rumble refuses to back down. We have always believed in empowering independent voices, and now Rumble is taking it to the next level. We are excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and for creators. And it's more than a subscription. It is a stand for free speech because your voice matters. That's why we want you to join Rumble Premium today. For a limited time, you can get $10, $10, folks, off an annual plan using promo code KG10. And just visit rumble.com/premium/KG10 and you can claim your discount today. Again, that's rumble.com/premium/KG10. It's got a ring to it, doesn't it? And I also want to bring you a special message from our friends at Patriot Lifestyle, where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different lifestyle benefits, from savings on travel, identity theft, legal services, and even pet care. Take a look. Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price, so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back, so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection, so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services, so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect .net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. And you can go to patriotbenefits.net to learn more, because these programs all come at an extraordinary value and they will greatly improve your life. And in closing, remember what government is really supposed to be about: protecting people, property, and improving quality of life. That's why it all starts with having people in charge who share that mission. That's why law and order is at the center of the America First agenda. Courage is contagious, and perseverance is powerful. So keep that in mind as you pay attention to what happens over these next 4 years. Thank you so much for joining us today on this important episode. Please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the latest breaking news coverage, and don't miss Don Jr.'s big show at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight right here on Rumble. I hope